Bismillah ar-Rahman ar-Rahim. Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullah wa barakatuh. This is Dr. Halimah again, and today's lecture is number 5. The title of this lecture is Interpreting Typological Parameters. Again, I am giving you some theoretical background about this interpreting course, and today's classification of interpreting is based on different types, different parameters. And by the end of this course, by the end of this lecture, you should be able to identify a systematic inventory of types and subtypes of interpreting, such as language modality and working mode and directionality and use of technology and professional status. In other words, interpreting could be classified according to these 5 parameters, 5 criteria, 5 elements, 5 types, whatever you call them, you know. So and then we will interpret, we'll practice some interpreting as well. You know, today, I mean, for instance, language modality. What do we mean by language modality? Interpreting is used like a generic term. The word interpreting is used like a generic term, is generic term to indicate to the use of spoken language in particular. So when you say interpreting, it means you are dealing with the spoken language. But because sign language interpreting emerged, then they have started to use spoken language interpreting. Now, language modality, bear in mind what we mean by language in modality. It means how language is delivered. How language is delivered in interpreting. Now, language is delivered in interpreting normally spoken language, but because there is, because recently they have come up with this sign language. You know sign language? When at 6:30 at Al Jazeera, you know, you have this person who interpret the news using sign language. So that's why, to differentiate between sign language and spoken language, then they say spoken language interpreting and sign language interpreting, or even they would say interpreting for the deaf, you know, or interpreting voice to sign interpreting. I speak and sign interpreting. So, or sign to sign interpreting, like, you know, dumb people, deaf people, or even blind people, sign to voice, okay, sign to sign interpreting, okay. But when it comes down to a person, afana wa afakumullah, deaf and blind, he can't hear, or she can't hear, and she can't see. What kind of interpreting do you do with them? They call it finger spelling. You know, so they put they use their hands finger to interpret. So it's called sometimes tactile interpreting. Tactile interpreting means touching. You know, so. Interpreting is looked at from the language modality. It means from how language is used. Language is used with spoken language or sign language, or even a language for the deaf and the blind. So this is what we mean by modality. You as an interpreter, you have to understand, are you interpreting for the deaf or for the blind, or what what are you doing? Are you interpreting to the to normal people? So you need to take into account what kind of language modality you are using. All right, this is related to language modality. Another parameter, another criteria, we have working mode. Working mode. What we mean by working mode, it's after the now working mode. It means, are you going to interpret or to translate consecutively or simultaneously? What kind of manner, mode, what kind of mode you would be using to interpret? Now, if you said if you are interpreting consecutively, or if you are using consecutive interpreting, what consecutive interpreting? It means after the source language utterance. After the source language utterance. If Ali, if for instance Ahmad wants to interpret using the work mode of consecutive interpreting, he say, okay Ahmad, okay Ali, say what you want me to interpret. So Ali says something in Arabic, says something. أنا أتمتع في محاضرة الترجمة التتابعية. Okay, now this is consecutive interpreting. Then I have to take notes. But when he is talking, he might be talking to 5 minutes. Then I take notes and say, okay, audience, or okay, John, look, Ali enjoys consecutive interpreting course, and blah 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 blah. You know, this is consecutive. He is using the mode of consecutive interpreting. But if you want to say to me, okay, I want to use simultaneous, I want to translate simultaneous, then in this case, you know, simultaneous translation or simultaneous interpreting, it happens, or it takes place as the source language text is being presented. Ali says, أنني أتمتع في أنني أتمتع بدراسة الترجمة الفورية. I enjoy studying consecutive translation، لكنني أجد صعوبة بعض الشيء عندما أريد أن أترجم ترجمة فورية. But I find something difficult about it, especially when I translate simultaneously. هل هناك من حل لمثل هذه المشكلة? Is there any solution for such a problem? Then someone else, I think you need to focus more. أعتقد عليك أن تركز أكثر. And you have to do a lot of practice so that you get used to it. وعليك أن تمارس كثيرا بحيث أن تعتاد على ذلك. This interaction gives you an example of simultaneous translation. And this is the working mode. This is the manner. How you are working mode means the manner you give the interpreter. Okay? If it is consecutive, all right. You need to wait until the speaker finishes his utterance or speech, and then you translate or interpret. But if you are translating simultaneously, while he is speaking, as he is speaking, you know, you interpret right away, immediately, here and now, you know. So this is the working mode of the type of interpreting. Now, we have some ideas, you know, some points about consecutive interpreting, and mainly, really, in consecutive interpreting is concerned with longer speeches, between 5 minutes. So you take notes. But if it is short consecutive translation, then really it's not. It doesn't require. If it is short consecutive, then you could manage by doing it like simultaneously. But if it is really a longer piece of utterance or a longer piece of speech and you want to interpret, then you need to take notes. That's why you need to be good at taking notes. But if you are doing short consecutive without short consecutive interpret, then you don't need to take notes, because you are doing it immediately, and you are doing it between two people and so on. It depends, as I say, as you know now, it depends on the setting, it depends on the working mode, and it depends on the constellation. Is it bilateral? Is it multilateral? You need to be aware of all these possibilities. Okay. Another type of interpreting, which is called, this belongs to, we are still talking about the working mode. Working mode is the manner, the interpreting, in which interpreting takes place. Is it consecutive? Is it simultaneous? Is it whispered interpreting? Can she provide attention? Whispered interpreting. Whispered interpreting, it's just like you sit between two people, and you listen and you whisper in the person's ears. So this takes place normally between either high-ranking people like presidents or queens and kings, or it could take place in a hospital where you cannot really speak loudly. You cannot really, because you might hurt the people in the hospital. So people tend to use whispered or whispering interpreting. So interpreting now, especially simultaneous interpreting, is really, to be honest, is really more popular, and people use it more than consecutive interpreting, to be honest, more. So you need to really train yourself to be able to do simultaneous interpreting more than consecutive interpreting. Consecutive interpreting, it's like in education now here. Teaching, for instance, my regular students, consecutive interpreting. They read, as I do, they read the paragraph, as you are doing, by the way. You are the paragraph. They read the paragraph, and they take, for instance, 2-3 minutes, and then they interpret it. But if you want to do it simultaneously, then it's a different story. You need to do a lot of training and a lot of practice, believe me. You need to be good at Arabic and good at English, fluent. I myself, I feel more confident when I translate from Arabic into English, probably because of my long stay in the UK. It's my problem. But in your case, you need to be, people would expect of you to be more fluent in Arabic. So when you translate from English into Arabic, you should be able to really come up with good Arabic, better than mine, So you can do it. But of course, you need to do a lot of practice. Okay. Now, the third parameter of interpreting is directionality. Now, you need to ask yourself, am I interpreting face to face, like in dialogue, or am I interpreting bilateral interpreting? Bilateral interpreting, like liaison interpreting, where the interpreter acts like a liaison officer and interprets between this party or this group of people and this group of people. Or what kind of direction Are you sitting in the booths, and you know, from the delegates to you, and from you to other people? So the direction, you need to understand that that when you are interpreting, you say, okay, what is the directionality of interpreting? How? Is it face to face? Am I interpreting to John? You know, look, this Ali is talking to you, and I'm talking to you this way, like the face to face, or not? But to be honest, you know, when you are interpreting professionally, you don't have to really just. I mean, you could look at the parties in the face, but you don't have to, you know, be so mobile and so on. No, the way you interpret, let it be impersonal, unemotional. What he says, you interpret. What he says, you interpret, and so on. So the directionality is important, back and forth. You know, you interpret to him, and he answers, and you back to the other party. So this is directionality, they say. This is called directionality. Means the direction of your interpreting. Okay. Okay. Now, the third type or parameter of classification of interpreting, according to the typological parameters, use of technology. Now, the technical development and advancement in technology, and in the invention of new equipment, and so much is available in technology now that would enable you as an interpreter to achieve your interpreting effectively and successfully. So you need to really be familiar with what kind of equipment you will be using, you know, and technical equipment are used normally to avoid the mixing of source and target language messages. Sometimes he is speaking and you are interpreting, and then he responds. So there is a kind of clash between source language and target language messages. So equipment or technical equipment are used to avoid such mixing. In what? In the acoustic channel. You know, when you listen and you hear, you see, oh well, I can hear another person talking. Sometimes when you are phoning, when you are speaking on the phone, especially landlines, you know, you are talking to someone, and then all of a sudden, oh, you are listening, you are hearing someone else. It happens. It happened with me so many times in the UK. Believe me, I would listen to a conversation on the other line, and I'm talking to someone in the other part of the world. So this kind of clash or mixing causes a problem in understanding the messages. So you need, well, in my case, I had to hang up and then do it again. So this is the role of technical equipment interpreting. And technical equipment are used normally in remote interpreting or audiovisual. Now imagine for instance, in our meetings here at the university, we use audio, video conferencing, which is really good. Remote interpreting. I mean, if I want, for instance, to hold a meeting, and you want to listen to, for instance, what's going on, then you just, we video conference you, and then we can link you with us, and you can listen to our discussion, and an interpreter will be interpreting what's going on. You will understand the message. So by the good offices of what? Of technical equipment. So the use of technology in interpreting is paramount, is really common now, very common. And without it, your job, especially when you are doing it from a distance, or on over the phone, you know, it wouldn't get really through effectively. Sometimes at Heathrow Airport, for instance, imagine, at Heathrow Airport, the officer, the customs officer, phones me up, says, Dr. Halimah, we have someone coming from the Arab world and he wants to come into England. Can you please interpret what he is saying? On the phone. Now, the Arabic speaking person speaks, I listen to him and I interpret to the police or to the customs officer. This kind of, they call it over the phone interpreting. Again, without technical equipment you can't do it. Okay? Now, professional status, another type. Professional status, you need to differentiate between what is professional and what is really lay interpreting. I mean, the level of skills, and expertise a professional interpreter require are huge. You know, a professional interpreter requires different types of expertise, experience, skills, linguistic ability, social competence, grammatical competence, communicative competence. So much is required by a professional interpreter. Whereas, if you want to act as a natural interpreter or a lay person interpreter, then it's a different story. You know, you are not the professional. You do it just whenever it is necessary or whenever the opportunity arises. You know, you need to differentiate. So that's why they classify interpreting according to the professionality, or are you professional interpreter, or just any person who speaks English, he becomes an interpreter? No, it doesn't work like this in interpreting. Especially, you know, if you want to really categorize yourself as as a professional interpreter. Okay. So we have talked so far about the the typological parameters. We talked about language modality. We talked about the working mode. We talked about directionality. We talked about the use of technology, and now we have talked as well about professional status. Based on this, now we can look at this exercise. If you want, for instance, to go ahead and try and interpret it, would be great. I mean, now you can do it, and when you interpret, really. Don't worry about making mistakes, but just go ahead and interpret it. Read it and interpret. An Alabama woman said Friday she fell asleep on the couch and didn't realize a tornado had ripped off part of her roof and damaged most of the home until firefighters and neighbors came to check on her. Now this is saying it quick, but if you want me to interpret it, صرحت امرأة من ولاية ألاباما يوم الجمعة بأنها نامت نامت في الكنبة ولم تدرك أن إعصارا قد مزق جزءا من سقف بيتها وخرب معظم بيتها، إلا عندما جاء رجال الإطفاء والجيران ليتأكدوا من حالها. This is quick. This is interpreting. You know. Now from Arabic, interpret the following into English. سأل أحد التلاميذ معلمه الحكيم من كان معلمك أيها المعلم. One of the students asked his wise teacher, who was your teacher? أجاب المعلم. The teacher answered. بل قل المئات من المعلمين. Well, say hundreds of teachers. وإن كان لي أن أسميهم جميعا فسوف يستغرق ذلك شهورا عديدة وربما سنوات. If I want to mention the names of my teachers, this would take really months and probably years. التلميذ the student. ولكن but ألم يكن لبعضهم تأثيرا عليك أكبر من الآخرين. But aren't there teachers who had more effect on you than others? Now you understand my interpreting. Is it okay? Is it not? So this is just an example of how you do interpret from and into English or Arabic. I mean, again, I have given you a lot of exercises for you to practice, because really you need to do a lot of practice in interpreting if you want to become an interpreter, and from Arabic into English and so on. I would like to thank you very much, and I hope that you understand my lecture, and I hope that you can follow it, and please study it, not because you want to pass the exam, just because you know, you want to learn and do interpret. Thank you very much indeed, and I wish you all the best, and see you next week inshallah. Thank you. Bye bye.